Well, a very good evening to you once again, race fans. It is that time of the week. Alliance Sim Racing's V8 Supercars series returns this week, round 8 at Shell V-Power Motorsport Park, better known as The Bend, here in Talon Bend, South Australia, just outside of Adelaide. This track is one of the newest in the world, but also one of the longest permanent tracks in the world. In fact, the second longest, only behind my personal favourite, the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Schleifer. Tonight, though, of course, we are not seeing the full extent of the bend. I think it'd be a bit of a challenge in its own right. We find ourselves on the international circuit for this round, and we welcome back to the booth alongside myself, Jared Cole, Josh Harris. Mate, welcome back for another week of V8 Supercar Racing here with ASR.
Hello, Jared. Thank you very much for having me along. I'm excited to be here. Australian V8s on an Australian track. Probably doesn't get any better, right?
No, absolutely. And this is the only Australian track we're seeing for this season, which is a bit unusual for Gen 3 Supercar Racing. But hey, we will absolutely take it. I've been looking forward to this one all season to see just how aggressive these drivers can be here at the bend. We know that we are very used to some door-to-door racing, and the bend absolutely encourages that. It's a very wide track in comparison to a lot of those that we've seen so far this season, so plenty of room for door-to-door battles and a little bit of argy-bargy, which I never mind seeing, of course. The drivers out on track at the moment getting through a lone qualifying, so we expect to have a grid set for race number 1 in not too long at all. 10 laps the first time around here tonight, and then we go to the longer race 2, 24 laps this time with a reverse top 5 grid. We'll see 2 compulsory pit stops and a 50% fuel capacity limit. So as always, the pit strategy will play into this in some way tonight, I'm sure. I don't know about you, Josh, but I'm expecting that the team at 24/7 Sim Services probably won't need to get behind the wheel of the safety car tonight. Perhaps to be proven wrong, but it's not a track that we're likely to see these drivers coming together on, is it?
No, probably not. It's probably one of the most runoff friendly tracks that I've ever raced on. There's more grass around than you could ever possibly imagine. But having said that, last time I raced here, we did get a safety car. We had some mechanical issues with one of the cars, so very much still a possibility, but probably unlikely to see cars into walls and things like that. But a couple of really big braking zones and a couple of fairly tricky corners here, Jared. One of the things that really blew my mind when I started to learn the bend is how many corners have undulations in the middle of the corner, and changing topography is hard to deal with in a supercar at all, let alone when it's right in the middle of a corner.
It's a track that absolutely loves to unsettle the chassis of a Gen 3 supercar, and honestly, I'm here for it. It's a lot of fun to drive this track, and I'm sure these drivers tonight are going to have quite a bit of fun with it. Before we do get underway, though, let's take a look at how the championship is shaping up with just 3 rounds to go, inclusive of tonight's racing. And no surprises, really, Josh. Wayne Walker out in front. Only 1 drop round taken so far by all drivers, so there's still a little bit of fudge factor in this for the moment, but Scott Gamble probably the only driver at the moment with any sort of a shot of unseating Wayne Walker from that top spot. Ken Latta also looking pretty comfortable for the moment in 3rd position, with the likes of Mark Point and Luke Allman not too far behind. Matt Vanderkruijm and Andrew Rushworth battling it out for 6th place, and then quite a few other drivers fairly close together within the top 10. Stuart, Dyke and Vargs all reasonably well seated there, but keep an eye on Mick Clifton, who is absolutely nipping at the heels of Vargs to get into that top 10. It's look, it could play out depending on, of course, appearances over the next 2 rounds very differently, but assuming that everyone shows up each round, it's going to be very, very hard to stop Wayne Walker, which has really been the tale of the season, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has, and to your point, you got Walker and Gamble out the front, Ken Latta there in 3rd place, having an absolutely fantastic season from a consistency perspective. But I don't think that he would be too upset at me making the comment that he probably doesn't have the absolute outright speed that Walker and Gamble do. So I'm not necessarily expecting him to go blazing off into the distance at any point over the rest of the race, over the rest of the season, sorry. And the guys who probably can, names like Vanderkruijm, Dyke, Rain Campbell are all guys that are, for a number of different reasons, a bit further down. So we absolutely might see some race result upsets. Those names that I mentioned, places like Van der Kranj, they've got nothing to lose, Jared. They are out to win. They're not there to protect the championship. So absolutely lick the stamp and send it, because all that you've got to play for the rest of the season is race wins.
Absolutely spot on, and it's going to be very interesting to see how much caution gets thrown to the wind from here. Realistically, we've got just a few rounds left, and if you want those points, you're going to have to do something a little bit risky, and maybe put your car on the line to pick up those extra couple of spots that you need to really stay in the hunt here. It is nice to see, though, a real mix of teams up the front end, isn't it? Like, we really don't have the utter domination that we've seen in some of the previous seasons, where we've got 2 or 3 drivers from the same team. This is a really nice spread of representation.
Six different teams in the top 6 spots. I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, good to see. Absolutely. We are just getting to the end of our qualifying session, so just a minute or two away now, I suspect, from seeing that one wrap up, and we will be able to bring to you some details of how this grid is going to stack up tonight. Just waiting on some confirmation. I believe Todd Martin finds himself back in the safety car this evening, but could be wrong. I have been before. We'll see how that looks tonight. Of course, the drivers, as we take a bit of a look at some of the qualifying times in the background. Actually, no massive surprises in the top half of the field, but it is a fairly well compressed one once again. So looking forward to getting confirmation of the grid positions in about a minute's time.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course then we get to go racing, and one thing about this track is it produces such great racing. So it's going to be really quite exciting to see.
For sure. And 10 laps, look, it's a fairly long circuit still, isn't it? It's there you go, Tim Lawson checking. G'day, Tim. Good to have you along, mate. Yep, he's out of the safety car again. What's going on? Did you not put the mirrors back into position, something like that, mate? And they decided you weren't welcome back in there? What happened? Tim Lawson out of the safety car, so Todd Martin will be back in the hot seat tonight. Almost 5 kilometres, even on this shorter layout, is plenty to make 10 laps of racing a decent opportunity to make up some positions and make up some points here, isn't it?
It is. We're talking over 1:50 for a lap, Jared. That's pretty long, and when you consider that that's over 1:50 for a lap of the short circuit here, that really does play testament to just how long this lap is, and a couple of really different corners. There's probably nowhere here at the bend that feels like anywhere else. There's some big long corners on acceleration. There's some really big stops and tight corners. There's a bit of everything.
Absolutely. As we take a look at the grid for race number 1, Scott Gamble and Wayne Walker will take the front row, with Matt Van der Kranj and Michael Stewart just behind them. Then Dean Logsdale and Andrew Rushworth ahead of Mark Poynton and Scott Mackay. Daniel Hall and Jamie Dyke rounding out your top 10 here this evening. Law McKee and Mick Clifton on row 6 ahead of Luke Allman and Michael Whiting. Then Damon Fisher and Peter Sattler ahead of Rick Varga and Stephen Varga. Troy Sipple and Phil Manuel rounding out the top 20. Simon Farrington and Brad Grant there in 21st and 22nd, and Craig Rose and Andrew Johnston with Ashley Hall and David Logsdale ahead of John Latham. Todd Martin showing on the grid for the moment. I will have to just tidy that up and make sure we note that he is in the safety car this evening. ASR keeping us on our toes as always up here in the box, but let's get ready to go racing as the drivers start to grid up here, and we wait for the green flag to wave for the first time. Tim, asking about Dean changing teams, I suspect there's perhaps some issues with our records of the championship standings. Indeed, I believe he's still listed as Team AJR on SimRacer Hub, so I will work with the ASR team to get that updated, because he is, of course, with 9.5 SimSport at this stage of the season. So a little different than what we had on screen just a moment ago, but I assure you that has been updated, at least in our records here, for what that's worth.
Impressively tonight, Jared, 0.75 of a second separating the top 11 drivers. The impressive bit to me, though, is that it was 2.5 tenths first to second. So half a tenth second to 11th, 2.5 tenths, sorry, 5 tenths, half a second, second to 11th, 2.5 tenths first to second. So Scott Gamble really does seem to have a pretty good understanding of this circuit.
Yeah, it's look, it's not super surprising, is it, to see some of those names at the front end? But I as always, I'm not convinced that we're going to know exactly who has the pace here until perhaps a little further into tonight's event. Gamble and Wayne Walker into turn one will be an interesting one, I am sure, as we wait. We've got about 20 seconds to go here, folks, until we are ready to get underway. This is another one of those tracks where the start-finish line actually about half you look at about half the distance of the grid back there. You'll actually see the control line for the end of the race. So it is a little further back. It always throws me when it comes to close finishes. I'm hoping I don't have to be on the ball with that tonight, but we'll see how we go. As we get the confirmation, we are ready to go racing. The lights come up as the drivers get the revs up, and we are underway. Wayne Walker started in reverse. What an unexpected moment for Wayne Walker.
As you said, Jared, we aren't going to know, there's so many things in motor racing that can change. I don't think I've ever seen that before. That has absolutely set me for six, Jared. I don't know what to say other than how impressively wide is the front straight here at the bend. I reckon that was 6 wide going into turn one.
I reckon it could well have been. That's what you see here at the bend. There's plenty of room for everyone to get settled in, and as we see Scott Gamble, Matt Vanderkar and Mark Poynton out in front, making the most of Wayne Walker's mistake, unless that's I don't know, some sort of handicap system that the admin have imposed, that they've asked him to start in reverse. I doubt it, but geez, that'd be an interesting way to do it, wouldn't it? Thankfully, it doesn't look like anyone else has been too far impacted at all. We do see in the background that looks like Simon Farrington off the track, and he is getting back into it now, but we're getting underway, and I'm still trying to figure out just what to expect. It is a new one, isn't it, David? Welcome to the chat, mate. Good to have you along, as always. We see them starting to settle into the rhythm. Scott Gamble making the most of this out in front. Safeway car park rules. It's look, it's not far off it, is it? But hey, these things happen, and it's
Dave raises a really interesting point, right? So Dave's raised penalty the car behind, and I know Dave's got a bit of tongue in cheek. I think that the probably the thing that Wayne Walker is worried about at the moment. I'm just trying to see how far down the list he fell. He fell down all the way to 26th, Jared. He got absolutely swamped off the start line. He also contacted the car who started in 4th place and probably did some damage. I actually wouldn't be surprised to see a time penalty handed to Wayne Walker for causing an accident on the start.
I don't think you're far off the mark either. As we see the battle starting to shape up here, Vargs and Grant going side by side. They're a long way back, and I think that'll be pretty indicative of some of the chaos. Both these guys up quite a few positions, but yeah, Wayne Walker coming in, whether that's David Coleman, absolutely spot on. He will travel the furthest of any driver here tonight. I'm pretty sure. That said, he didn't reverse all the way to the back of the grid, so I don't know if that's accurate, Dave. Come on.
He didn't. And also, for those who are my age and grew up watching movies like Matilda, what we know is that going backwards actually takes kilometres off your own. So he actually.
I was wondering where you were going with that, mate. I was desperately trying to figure that out.
He got a bit of a free kick, right? He did. He minus some kilometres off at the start, and then he added them back on. I think that it all works itself out to be pretty even.
You know what? I'll allow it, and I do wonder if that's that visit to the pits for Wayne Walker. It looks like he may have had some damage to repair there, and Michael Stewart perhaps as well, as they've both gone into pits early. I don't think it's a self-imposed penalty because it's just not been enough of an issue.
Something that when we get a chance, Jared, it would be good to go back and actually have a look at that start.
Don't you worry.
I was so distracted in the optics of a car reversing off the start line that whilst I saw the impact, I don't actually know how big that impact was, and you're absolutely right. There's every possibility that poor old Wayne Walker not only went from second to 26th, but then also had enough damage that he had to pit again. And, if he does end up getting a time penalty, talk about salt into the wounds. Like, what a race. And also, Jared, talk about absolutely turning the championship on its head, potentially. The two guys who are the only two that really remain in contention, one's in first place, one's in last place. There's 26 cars in between them. That this, obviously Wayne Walker's a fast guy. He's got 7 laps. He's got a reasonable amount of time. He's not going to come last, but this is going to be a huge drop in points. And of course, we don't qualify like the real supercars for the next race. This is progressive grids. He starts the next race tonight in the same position that he finishes. He has absolutely hamstringed himself for the whole night. It is going to affect the championship. How much? I don't know. Maybe this counts as his drop round, as we see someone in the background there getting
going around,
absolutely hooked by the look of it. Maybe this is Wayne Walker's drop round, and it doesn't ultimately have a huge amount of effect. But there is real championship implications as a part of this.
Oh, there absolutely are. And look, I think the saving grace, perhaps, for Wayne Walker is that this has happened in race 1 tonight, which is worth less points overall than the second race. So the impact will be minimised if this isn't able to be counted as one of his drop rounds. I'm just trying to recall whether he's actually missed any other rounds, though, in the season. In any case, you'd have to think this would be one of the worst, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Look, I think you can pretty much already write it up and go, look, this is going to be the one that he needs to drop. But that just takes away, all the rest of it. We all, as drivers, we all want to drop a really good round, because if you're dropping a good round, it means that every other round's been good as well. But it just takes away, it just makes your championship that little bit harder.
Absolutely does. I'm just David Coleman is on absolute fire, and I have no doubt that you are sitting there giggling yourself half to death at the moment, Coleman, as you're coming up with these. A bit of serious chatter around the penalties from Tim Lawson. David Coleman showing his age, referencing Ferris Bueller for reversing and odometers. And look, it was a good launch. You could say that he's reversed the championship a little now. And maybe he did take the reverse grid a little too literally. Maybe.
Yeah, that one got me. Well done, Dave. That's an absolute beauty. I do like it. You are on fire. I can just imagine you on your couch at the moment having a very good giggle. Anyone else that may happen to be around in your house at the moment is probably wondering what on earth is going on. But what an unreal talking point, Jared. One thing about the Bend. I actually really enjoyed racing here at the Bend, Jared. It was a really fun track, and it did produce some good racing, but so many corners that these cars, if you're, let's say you're losing half a tenth per corner to a car around you, by the time you get to the end of the lap, that's a lot of tenths, because there's so many corners. And what it does mean is we can see these big field spreads. Now, obviously, we've got a really cool train forming all the way from Matt Vanderkraan through in second to Luke Allman in 10th. There is this fantastic...
big lock up there for John Latham. He slides off the track. Hopefully can get it rolling again.
And another one.
He's back onto it now.
I'm not sure who that is.
That's Craig Rose, who's had a similar moment.
Sympathy.
Yeah, look, nothing wrong with a bit of a sympathy slide as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So my point, Jared, was that we've got a really cool train formed up here that we're just looking at now. Lots of cars all together, but what we do see is lots of spread here. So there is always the possibility for these races to get a little mundane, and whilst it's a beautiful track to drive, not necessarily always the best to watch. And Wayne Walker, if we do get a chance to talk to him tonight, we'll have to say thank you, because he's absolutely given us something to talk about for the rest of the night, given the chat a reason to absolutely pop off. And my mind is still racing a million miles an hour, Jared. I still don't know what to think, what to say, how to progress it.
We've spent half this race, would you believe, trying to figure this out. Look, let's take a look at how this is actually going out on track before we go back and take a look at this start. Scott Gamble out to a 2-second lead. Matt Vanderkraan quite comfortably at the head of this train that includes Point and Logsdale, Hall, Dyke and Rushworth, all in fairly close order behind. You can see the stretch ahead there. And then a few gaps behind. Scott Mackay just trying to keep on the back of this one. And then, of course, we've got Luke Allman a bit further back in battle with Lon McKee. We've got Clifton Whiting in it as well. Are we going to see a replay? We absolutely are. And I think the best place to start is actually going to be from the cockpit of Michael Stewart. So here we go, folks. This is the start that Michael Stewart got to see here. That's
Can you imagine? I've lost it, Jared.
Just the moment in Michael Stewart's car at that point. Yeah, I can absolutely imagine
the confusion. Just Michael Stewart would have been sitting there going, "Oh, like, what do I do? Like, what has happened? Where do I go?" That is fantastic. I've thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you for going there, because that is a great place to start. But that really highlights my point, Jared. That was actually a pretty big hit for Michael Stewart. That would have done damage to the front of his car.
Well, when we take a look at it from outside, as the flag goes green, like Wayne Walker's launching it. He's not just crept back. You see him he actually loads the car up a bit. So he's on the, and that might have been just the slightest of indications that something was a bit off there. You don't usually see the nose dip when you load the suspension up. But no, that's what he had. But he only had a brief moment to wrap his head around it before it was green, and so straight into it, and backs it into Michael Stewart.
To give him a little bit of credit, he actually did a great job of getting it plucked back into first and disappearing. Tim Lawson absolutely hit the nail on the head. Wayne's probably wishing that he was at a Coldplay concert right now. You're absolutely right. I didn't think there was much more embarrassing than being at a Coldplay concert, but I reckon that if we could see Wayne Walker now, he'd be doing that disappearing act, that hand, the face behind the hands, and running away.
Probably the most, I guess, the most enjoyable part of this. And it's not to take pleasure in the misfortune of others, but it's really nice to see that Wayne Walker is actually human out on a racetrack. Like that's probably the first thing we've seen all season that suggests that he's not some sort of AI behind the wheel with how well he drives these things. So you know what, I'll take it as Jamie Dyke gets very, very close in behind Daniel Hall. He's really looking for an opportunity. Hasn't managed to find it yet. Hall's got just enough pace to hold him off, and has done for quite a few laps here. I don't think Dyke's going to find the way through just yet. Brad Grant's having a bit of a rough night, but he's finally caught back up to Troy Sippler. Now he's going to have a look up the inside into turn one. This is where you've got to get it done. It's one of the few sections of track where you can really send it up the inside under heavy braking. But Grant just sticking a little bit too close to the inside of the track and gives up too much speed through that turn. Really did need to stick further out and put some more pressure on Sipple on the way into that corner, didn't he?
There's actually some really fun games that you can play there, Jared. The track is so wide that you can brake later than normal and just keep driving straight, blow the corner a little bit, you still end up making it. But even the transition period between turn 1 and turn 2 is still so wide. It's, 4 car widths wide. You can really hang people out to dry there. And, if you need to manufacture a pass, that's a genuine place in a supercar where you can manufacture one. We now jump to the replay, having a bit of a look at Peter Sattler as he sees a big bit of Tyson. Oh, no, and straight into the side.
Corner to Ashley Hall, who's just spinning around there. Nowhere to go, though, for Peter Sattler, unfortunately.
No, absolutely not. And if I do remember correctly, Peter Sattler off the road a couple of laps ago, so potentially potentially, having his own dramas tonight and back in a position he didn't want to be in, and then unfortunately, nowhere to go. Right, that's just one of those incidents. But yeah, he'll be disappointed about coming around the corner there and just seeing a car park sideways. And it's not ever a sight that you want to see.
No, it's not. Luke Allman now sitting on the cusp of the top 10. Unfortunately, a little way off, taking advantage of that reverse grid. And that's probably why Jamie Dyke's battling so hard up there to take fifth away from Dan Hall. But Allman just comfortably in there. Always like to feature drivers that do have the camera pointed at them, because it's always good to see just how locked in they are as they make their way around.
Doesn't he look comfortable though? He is cool, calm, and collected. He doesn't look like he's up on the wheel too hard. There's no frantic movements. The head's nice and still. Yeah,
no swearing at the screen, which is always a good sign.
No, that's usually something that I reserve the right to do. But no, certainly, he appears to be really quite comfortable and relaxed is probably the big thing. So, he's in a really good position, and he's just making the most of it, and seems to be enjoying and comfortable with the pace he's got on. Someone who wouldn't be anywhere near as comfortable, I don't think, is Daniel Hall here with a bright green fishy car breathing all down his neck. That's not really anywhere that anyone wants to be. Jamie Dyke actually has a bit of a leg up over the rest of the field. Has completed a 90-minute race here just 4 weeks ago, I think. So Jamie Dyke certainly has his eye in at the bend, and that'll be helping him. But as we're seeing, we all know Jamie's not a slow driver, not by any stretch of the imagination. And he isn't just cutting his way through this pack. It's a difficult track to pass on. There's a couple of really, really good opportunities, and Jamie will be doing everything he can now through these last couple of corners to try and set himself up for a run. Half a second off's too far, but yeah, there's no doubt that he's going to continue working his way forward. Second last lap though, Jared. He's only got 2 laps to get this done and get himself up into fifth to nab that last spot in the reverse top 5.
Yeah, and you saw that through the back part of the last lap. Jamie Dyke actually significantly quicker, as we see. He's got Mackay closing in here. Mackay and Dyke both having a similar kind of run in their own little battles here. Mackay and Rushworth really closing up very quickly behind and getting that gap shut right down here. But as you said, it's a really tough track to pass on. Mackay's looking to go a bit of over-under here if he can make it stick. He's going to have to get well under, though, to try and get the drive, and he just can't yet. Jamie Dyke, you can see a similar set of circumstances. He is definitely quicker than Dan Hall around the back of this track, but trying to find somewhere that he can actually make something of it, it's a really, really tough track to get it done, because unlike a lot of the other tracks we've raced on in these Gen 3 supercars, there are not that many opportunities to put the braking to the test, and that's really where you get a lot of your passing done. It's not the long flowing straight and sweepers. It's really the hard braking that sets these cars apart when it comes to passes, and there's just not the opportunities to do it here at the bend quite as often, and so you've really got to work and set up your passes a half a lap in advance.
Long straights into hard braking areas is, what they say is how you want to pass. As we see Latham there down the inside of...
Tipple gets it back up the outside, though. Is he going to get back alongside here?
This is another pretty hard braking spot. I don't expect, although Latham does
overshot it,
a bit of a wide. So
up the inside, he's going to make this one stick, but it'll be a right-hander out of this, so he'll have the advantage back. This battle's going to go right to the line, I think. Now, here we go, Jamie Dyke and Dan Hall as we come down to the end of the straight. Dan Hall flinches first and moves across. Jamie Dyke stays up the inside, just wants to fill that mirror up. A big moment there for Dyke. That's going to cost him.
It is. This is really Jamie's last golden opportunity here. Out of turn 3, big long turn here, and then turn 4 is very fast into a hard braking zone at turn 5. So Jamie will attempt to get a good run through here and throw it down the inside. If he doesn't get it done here, there's probably only a run to the line. Jamie's doing an absolutely fantastic job of continuing to apply pressure, but really doesn't have the opportunity to dive down the inside. A series of right-handers here, Jared. These are actually really quite difficult. They're mid-speed. You're still in fourth gear there. You know, they're quite quick. This one here in particular is blind, but not really a passing opportunity.
Interesting to see that Rushworth's actually caught up quite a bit and is now pressuring Jamie Dyke. So all of a sudden, Dyke's going to have to play a little bit more defensively here to hold on to his spot. Whether or not he can get up into fifth is going to depend very much on the mistake from Dan Hall. Scott Gamble out in front will be getting closer to the finish line. We'll jump over there in just a second, but we'll keep an eye on this four-way battle for fifth because really, barring a major incident, I wouldn't expect this will change too much. But it's been a very, very tight race the whole way through. Scott Gamble, meanwhile, just rounding that final corner, and we'll see him come across the line, which is actually all the way back there, despite where we've got our cameras set up here tonight. Scott Gamble takes the win. Matt Vanderkraan home in second ahead of Mark Point, and then Dean Logsdale and Dan Hall comes home ahead of Jamie Dyke, followed by Scott Mackay getting past Andrew Rushworth at the death there. We'll have to go back and take another look at that because we did miss it by going forward to see the finish. So what's happened to allow Mackay through? As he just, Andrew Rushworth, just a little bit of a slide. That's going to be enough for Mackay to take advantage of it. And look at that dive.
Wow.
Big lock of the brakes. I don't think that was actually Mackay that locked him up. I think that might have been Dan Hall.
Yeah, that was a big move. That's bordering on, I would call that cheeky, Jared. But you know, he got it done. There was nothing that broke the rules, but really big, brave move there, and only just got it done, but he did get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see the last of the drivers coming through, Wayne Walker makes his way up into 24th. Andrew Johnston's going to come across in 25th. And then we wait just on Simon Farrington and David Logsdale as some of the last drivers to make the line. Ashley Hall, unfortunately, having a bit of a rough one again this week. He's finding it difficult. Oh, David Logsdale's run off in the second to last corner. Still pushing for time despite the position back here. But he is comfortably coming through. And then Ashley Hall, not a race to remember for him, unfortunately. But such is life sometimes, and again off the track well. There, these cars are so tricky to drive.
That's also a really, really tough corner, Jared. It's quite slow, and it turns back on itself just a little bit. There's undulation, there's all sorts of things. That is a super, super tough corner in these cars, and I'm not surprised to see that as the biggest hotspot of the night for cars running off.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, so much of this track is actually really difficult to race on. But let's take a look at the results for race number one here. And Scott Gamble takes the points and the win reasonably comfortably over Matt Vanderkraan. Almost 3 seconds in it. But Mark Poynton not too far behind Vanderkraan there, taking third. Then Dean Logsdale and Dan Hall round out your top five that will be reversing the grid for race number two. Jamie Dyke comes home in sixth ahead of Scott Mackay, then Andrew Rushworth and Lorne McKee. Luke Allman rounding out the top 10 there, with Michael Whiting and Mick Clifton just outside. Damon Fisher and James Hardy behind them ahead of Vigar and Varga. Jeez, that's a mouthful, isn't it, when those two finish right next to each other? John Latham and Troy Sipple 17th and 18th, then Brad Grant and Craig Rose round out your top 20. Take a look a little bit further back through the pack. Phil Manuel and Peter Sattler 21st and 22nd, then Michael Stewart and Wayne Walker just clawing his way back to a 24th place finish ahead of Andrew Johnston, Simon Farrington and David Logsdale, then Ashley Hall, the last driver to finish the race here tonight around those 10 laps. Now, drivers off to a bit of a warm-up for the moment. I do have to ask, Mr. Coleman in the chat just pointing out, wait till we hear what sim gear that Jamie Dyke actually runs on, and we'll wonder how he's that fast. I'm now picturing like a Logitech G923 or something like that. And maybe even some homemade pedals. Tell us what he runs on, David. Let's hear it, mate.
One thing that I know, Jared, and this is to give a huge amount of credit to guys like Jamie Dyke. Reese Wakefield's another name, probably not familiar to people here at ASR, but Reese is a guy that I know in sim racing, and he's made it all the way to the GT3 Pro series. He's in the Four Nations at the moment, representing Australia.
So he's okay. That's what he's saying. He's pretty decent.
He does okay. He does okay, and he was on a belt-driven Logitech wheel until just recently. The reality is, the really expensive sim gear is super cool. I've got some good quality stuff that I race on, and it's cool, but it doesn't make you fast. And guys who are fast, no matter what they drive with, and guys like me are not, no matter what we drive with. I can't wait to hear what Dikey runs on, because it always blows my mind, right? When guys are like, I go out and I spend far more than my partner would like me to spend on a set of pedals, for instance, and then someone comes out and goes, yeah, my whole sim rig is worth less than your pedals, and I'm a second a lap faster than you at every track. And I'm just like, why do I do this to myself, Jared? Why do I put myself through this pain?
For the love of the game, mate. For the love of the game.
Yeah.
Why else?
Yeah. And for hatred of my bank account.
I mean, you've got to spend it on something, right? That's how I justify it.
On a lot worse things.
You could.
But the reality is, that guys like Jamie do an absolutely fantastic job on equipment that's cheap and readily available and within their budget. And that's one of the cool things about sim racing. You don't have to have the same budget to go racing.
No, exactly. It allows for all levels to kind of get involved, and it's certainly a lot better in that respect than perhaps some of the real world racing, and needing the amount of money to get in. Motorsport generally, right?
Real motorsport is a sport. It's one of the only sports in the world where money genuinely equals your results.
Yeah.
There has to be a level of skill, but generally the guy or the person who has the most money is the person who goes fastest. Sim racing isn't that, and I love it because of it.
Absolutely spot on. The grid for race number 2 here, Dan Hall and Dean Logsdale up front with the reverse top 5. Then Mark Point and Matt Vanderkram with Scott Gamble rounding out the reverse top 5 here. Jamie Dyke starts in 6th ahead of Mackay and Rushworth. Then Lorne McKee and Luke Orman round out your top 10. Michael Whiting and Mick Clifton start ahead of Damon Fisher and James Hardy. Then Rick Varga and Stephen Varga with John Latham and Troy Sipple behind them. Brad Grant and Craig Rose, your top 20. Then Phil Manuel and Peter Sattler alongside each other. Michael Stewart and Wayne Walker will start in 24th. And then Andrew Johnston just a little further back. And we are ready to get underway here for race number 2. As we launch, it does look like everyone's going the right direction here, which is a fantastic start as we come on down towards turn number 1 for the first time. We've got a big accident at the back of the field. That looks like Craig Rose getting involved in that. Who was that went into the wall? Was that Peter Sattler? Or was it perhaps, it looks like it might have actually been Rick Vigar into the wall there. We'll have to go back and have a look at what's happened, but Vigar has had a big moment into the wall there. Thankfully, not too many other drivers getting caught up in it, but what a way to start race number 2 as immediately Dan Hall jumps away out in front. Mark Poynton and Scott Gamble looking to follow him with Logsdale and Matt Vanderkram in hot pursuit, and keep your eye on Jamie Dyke as well, who's right in amongst it. We're still 2 and 3 wide, and it just speaks to how much room there is on this track to try and pick your way through a pretty compressed field at the start of a race.
Yeah, and this is when you have to make your moves, James. As we see a quantum car there getting pushed sideways in the background. So these guys, they might have some. I don't actually even know how many laps it is off the top of my head, Jared. But these guys, plenty of laps, 24 laps. These guys have got
tonight. Plenty to go.
What they know is that supercars absolutely are best on lap 1 and 2, and that you have to make your moves straight away. So we saw that argy-bargy off the start line. We then saw argy-bargy through what looked like turn 6 with one of the quantum cars getting hooked. And it's just a part of this racing. You have to make moves on lap 1.
Absolutely do, as we see Damon Fisher and James Hardy as they come through, and then a big moment in the background for was that Peter Sattler again? Tell me it's not. It looks like it might have been.
I think it is. He's
Peter
having
Sattler,
a night to forget.
Yeah, he's not having a great night either. But spare a thought for Troy Sipple and Rick Vigar, who both find themselves down the very back of the field. Vigar getting sent into the fence off the start. Sipple getting sent off the track early. Two of the let's say, the main names behind this league. Not the night that they would have hoped for, I'm sure, as we see a number of cars coming in and getting an early pit stop out of the way. And not particularly surprised to see that, honestly.
No, absolutely. I think that the plan will be one early pit stop and then wait for safety car. So run long and see what happens. But we will see. But you know, certainly guys like Wayne Walker. Not really anything to lose. Might as well try a slightly different strategy, get yourself in clear air for as long as you can. You know, Wayne Walker is definitely going to be faster on his own than he would be fighting through those back markers. So this move, you know, I reckon there's probably 7 or 8, maybe even 10 spots, Jared, in pitting on lap 1. And getting to run clean with no one around you and not have to put the passes on, you know, they're pseudo passes. You just drive around comfortably all on your own, and you pass people when they come into pits.
Just like that, Jamie Dyke gets a pass done, the better drive than Dean Logsdale, and picks up an extra spot up into 4th now. Andrew Johnston's picked up a meatball with an incident just a little earlier. We've got a few to go back and take a look at off the start line, so we might pop back and just see if we can keep an eye on exactly what's happened to Rick Vigar off the line. Let's jump back and take another look at this start. So Vigar, you can see there, center of screen, the car number 014 just pokes the nose out to the right here. Now, where does he get caught up? A slow start from Scott Mackay. Oh, he actually turns himself across the front of Mackay, just moves across too soon. Thankfully, only seems to have taken himself out in that. I have no idea how he's managed to miss everybody else, but have a look at the camber, the toe, rather, and I know they'll pick me up on that in the Discord later. The toe on that front left, probably not ideal for a track like the Bend.
No, look, a supercar actually really likes a little bit of toe out, but not that much.
Yeah, it's a little excessive.
That's excessive.
Not the way to get it if you've forgotten to change it in your setup, mate.
The other thing that I noticed, Jared, I'm not sure whether you happen to spot it, but I think that Wayne Walker actually got a bit of a tardy start, got a bit of wheel spin and clouted the inside wall, which will have done a small amount of damage to his car. So I'll be interested to see whether he's fixed that or whether he has burned up a quick repair.
Actually got a really good start. There's a nudge there from Sattler, and that's what's caused it. So just a little nudge as Walker's gone around the outside. Barely misses Vigar on the way through.
That won't be a huge amount of damage, but it will, you know, there might be 5, 6, 7 seconds worth of damage associated to that, to repairing the pits. And where you can really get caught out with that, Jared, is if you forget to turn your fast repair off, iRacing will look at that and go, okay, there is damage, we'll just fix it. And then if Wayne Walker was to have a drama later on, he may have burnt up that fast repair, not even thinking about it, just not remembering to turn it off.
Well, big moment there for Fisher. Gets very loose. That allows the door to open for Mackay, and Mackay gets through on him as a result. Yeah, it's something you've got to really watch. Of course, the opposite can happen if you're like me and you like to set it up so that all of your pit settings are disabled by default. The opposite issue is when you often forget to turn on your tyre changes when you do come into pits, and you end up spending a fair bit longer in there, or as the case was in the 24-hour of Nürburgring earlier this year when I forgot to turn on fueling when I came in for my stop. So, you know, there's pitfalls no matter which way you look at it.
Thankfully, Jared, the tow time at Nürburgring wouldn't be that long, so it wouldn't have been that much of an issue.
Yeah, about that. The tow time is significant, I can tell you that much, but it's less significant than the stop and hold that you get for coming back around to the pits on the opposite side of the GP circuit. Ask me how I know.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so that's a lesson learned. That's a lesson learned. It is actually would have actually been much better for me to just tow immediately. And,
can I just point out, Jared, that what it actually would have been better to do was turn your fueling on when you came into pits.
Well, look, that would have been ideal. To be fair.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah.
But look, Wayne Walker's human, so am I. What can I say?
That's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. You could be like me, who completed 23 hours and 57 minutes of the Nürburgring 24 before having a hardware issue and putting my car in the fence.
Oh, there was a bit of that here and there as well. It's the joys of sim racing, though. It's much cheaper to fix a car when you make these errors here. Far cheaper. Absolutely. Let's go back and take a look and see what's happened with Troy Sippel back on lap 1 as well. And obviously in quite a bit of traffic. Let's see if there's any contact here that actually sends him off circuit, because it was quite an excursion. And yeah, it does look like just a bit of a helpful nudge there from, I think that was Michael Stewart, the 919 car. Thankfully no damage, and like you say, plenty of runoff. But it's put him a long way back in the pack. Rick Varga there, you can see it in the background, just sneaking into shot as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of time. I no damage to the car, but a huge amount of time. And I spend a lot of time travelling, Jared, which means that I've got a lot of time to scroll Instagram reels and stuff. And every now and then I come across some American police chase videos, and I've got to tell you that there is some police officers in America who would be mighty proud of the pit manoeuvre.
It was very gentle, wasn't it? Very gentle, but very effective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's an absolutely perfect display of a pit manoeuvre. Unfortunately, pit manoeuvres aren't usually accepted in racing. As we see a big moment there, and Hardy absolutely having to grab the brakes.
He's done a good job to keep it straight.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job. Of course, I think that Latham, his heart rate has just spiked because he thought that he was going in through the left-hand door of the Camaro, but nonetheless, he avoided it. Those guys got away without any damage, so they have continued racing. They've
got tear-offs in the race suit pants, don't they?
Yeah, they need them after that. That's all.
Absolutely right. Michael Whiting making his way up, courtesy of a few of the pit stops going on. He's up 6 spots. Jamie Dyke up into 2nd at the moment. And take a look at this front group. It's nowhere near as spread out as what we did see in the first race. Luke Allman has a big look
there from someone. There's all that smoke still there. I'm not sure who it was. I think they're all still on track, Jared. But there was a big lock.
Yeah, no, it was Matt Vanderkran. Vanderkran's gone off track there.
There we go. That was a significant smoke signal that he sent out. And once again, it's his second last corner. I mentioned it in the first race, Jared. It's a difficult corner, and yeah, Matt Vanderkran just pushed too hard. He had a run on. It would have been Dean Logsdale in front of him, and then just had to grab a little bit more brake pressure. Locked it up and went off. Once again, no damage at a track like this. Just a little bit of time and ego that gets hurt, but still, once again, the last couple of seasons, Jared, I think that we would have been asking whether Matt Vanderkran was human, and this season has proved that he too is fallible. So it's good to see that the wheel keeps on turning here at ASR, and there's always someone fast to take the position if you do make a mistake.
Absolutely spot on. Although I'm not taking that to mean there's much of a chance that I'll manage to keep up. G'day, Brad. Sorry we've left you hanging there, mate. Team HAR. Look, they're certainly in amongst it. Luke Allman up in 4th at the moment. And when we look at the cars that have made their stops so far, Damon Fisher is looking to set himself up for a late run at this, as is Brad Grant. They're circulating around the back of the pack at the moment, but they do have a pit stop under their belt already, so they're pretty well positioned for all of that at this stage.
No, they're doing a really good job, and I'm just having a look up and down the totem pole, Jared. I don't think that I've seen a race here at ASR with as many people in either plus or minus double-digit numbers. This field is entirely turned on its head since the start of the race, and I appreciate the fact that we're in the middle of some pit strategy at the moment, so some of those numbers will, fix themselves. But this water topsy-turvy race this has been, and there are a couple of drivers who will want to come back to the bend every week, and there is a couple of drivers who will be disconnecting from this session about 1.8 seconds after the checkered flag, and will probably ask to never race here again, I think.
See, it's too fun of a track to do that, although I'd love to see us do the full 7 whatever kilometres it is I was trying to remember that number of turns here is a whole different proposition. This one is tough enough.
Man, I went and drove that the other day because I was
haven't.
considering.
I still haven't.
Don't bother. Just don't bother.
I've heard that it's Australia's Nürburgring, but far more difficult because there's no features whatsoever, and that's certainly something I found difficult around even just the international circuit here. Apart from the braking boards, there are really very few features for you to base your reference points off. It's a really tough one in that respect.
I'd probably say, Jared, that it's Australia's Nürburgring minus the history, the fun, and the elevation changes. So basically it's just a twisty piece of tarmac that's not enjoyable to drive on.
And yet you still had fun on the shorter version.
The shorter version, fantastic. Because, to be fair, one of the other things, and for those who don't know the bend particularly well, this section that we're currently looking at is in the GT layout, and then just out of these couple of corners here, we're going to go right. It's 4 rights in a row, and basically what it does is it links us up from the front half of the circuit to the back half, and you can just see there, right at this point, the GT circuit goes straight ahead, and off it goes out the back, and it twists and turns and goes over a couple of really small hills. But Jared, we talked about how nice and wide the bend was, and what the racing surface being so wide allows to happen at the bend is it produces it's the width of the track that produces the racing. It lets these corners flow. You've got plenty of corner entry, plenty of corner exit, and it's how you get to race. The back end of the circuit is narrow. It's undulating. It's in my opinion just not particularly enjoyable, and it just feels like it goes on for too long. It's almost too much of a good thing.
You know what? I'm convinced I have to go have a look at it. Actually, Hall's had another moment, not his night here at all tonight. He's up 12 positions at the moment, but that's of course before his pit stop, which he's coming in for right now. And Ron McKee starting to reel in Mick Clifton. He's going to go deep here. Mick Clifton just on the way out. No, sorry, I stand correct. That's not Mick Clifton, is it? It certainly is. What's happened? Why did Clifton have so little pace there? He's not just come out of the pits. I thought for a moment, he must be on the way out from the pits, but he's certainly not. I am not at all certain what's happened there, aside from just some team orders, perhaps. And that's about all I can put it down to.
I don't have anything else to add, mate. I also don't know. It could have been. Absolutely, team orders are the sorts of things that sometimes in these sorts of races you need to discuss. We're only 8 laps into a 24-lap race. Sometimes it just makes sense to pull over.
Not sure if Dan Hall was intentionally heading for the pit there and couldn't get it over into the pit entry, but it looks like he's managed to keep it back out on track. I will say that we've seen a pretty impressive moment here in an earlier piece of broadcast coverage just a few weeks back.
Impressive?
Impressive in that I have no idea how that particular driver managed to end up so sideways at the pit entry and all sorts. But it was it's a treacherous kind of pit entry if you're coming out at any sort of pace, particularly in a Gen 3 supercar.
One of the things, Jared, that makes it so treacherous. This is the only racetrack that I have found on all of iRacing that has a 40k speed limit. These supercars are hard to get down to a 60k speed limit, let alone getting down to an 80. That last corner, for those who are watching at home, is the very top of third gear. You're doing 160 k's an hour around that corner. You're probably doing 175 to 180 by the time that you make the decision that you're bailing off to the left to go into pit lane. And it's actually a really, really short pit lane from track exit to pit limiter line. And you've got to knock somewhere in the vicinity of 140 k's off. These cars don't like doing it, Jared.
No, not at all.
It's really difficult to pull up for. It adds to the challenge, and it's very fun.
Sends it up inside big lock-up. Geez, he's grabbed that truck width now. I'm sure Mick Clifton had enough room and enough sense to just put himself a little out of harm's way. He retains inside and squeezes Matt Vanderkraan out just a little further as they make their way through this series of right-handers. Vanderkraan has been trying to set up this move for a little while now. Clifton comes across contact there. Vanderkraan manages to keep it straight. Have a look at Luke Allman just sneak through around the outside. The Team AJR driver saw that coming a mile off and set up to take full advantage of it. So Clifton and Vanderkraan continue to battle off. Vanderkraan feels like he's being held up here, I'm sure. As you see him set up on the inside, he'll be looking to make the move here on Clifton as well. Gets a bit of a nudge along in the background from Scott Mackay, who was carrying a lot more speed through that turn. And now Mackay's going to try and go around the outside of Clifton. Can he get it done? It's a big ask at this turn because it's all left, so he's going to have to drop back in. But a great opportunity for him to set up for the big braking section we're about to hit here. This is a tricky one to get right without trying to make a pass, but Mackay's going to go for it. Just chucks the nose in, forces his way through, and Clifton concedes the place. Scott Mackay sticks with Matt Vanderkraan, and Clifton will now try to hold on to the back as they make their way around to start lap number 11.
Did a really nice racing there, Jared. And I was surprised to see Matt Vanderkraan hang on the outside there. It's something that you can do for the first couple of those left-handers, but if you can't, bluff the other driver into letting you through, you've really got to pull it up and fall back in, because as we saw, the last of those right-handers, they were rights, not left-handers. As we see here, Nick Whiting put on a great move. He will have the inside line on Farrington for turn 3.
Hardy dive across.
Yeah, Hardy knew, and he's got his nose on the inside there, not quite. That's a really classic bend move and a really great way to use that track that's available at turn 1. But just back to that other move of Matt Vanderkraan's, I was watching that and I was really thinking these guys are going to end up going so slow through that last right-hander that they're going to do himself in, and sure enough, Luke Allman was all over it, and what a move. I'm not sure just how controlled it was when it happened, but a fantastic move nonetheless. He saw an opportunity and he took it.
Jamie Dyke has been chipping away at Dan Hall out in front, lap after lap after lap. For the last little while, Hall just not quite on the same sort of pace. Last lap, Jamie Dyke 0.2 quicker. And it's been that way for a little while. Jamie Dyke not being able to get the pass done, but he looks pretty content at the moment to actually let Hall set the pit strategy. And that's not a bad spot to be, really, when you're out here in front. As long as the lap pace is reasonably on par, then you don't have a huge deal to worry about. They do have to start thinking, though. Scott Gamble is leading the cars that have pitted. The gap to Gamble is about 40 seconds now back from Jamie Dyke. The pit stops we're seeing so far have been in the range of 42 to about 50 seconds. So depending on how much fuel these guys are going to be taking on, they need to really think about whether it's worth continuing this or whether they need to get in, get that first stop done and get back out to still be in with a shot if Gamble does catch them.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting point that you make, Jared. As we see there, Hall makes a bit of a mistake and Dyke thought about passing. Now, usually we see Jamie Dyke being pretty switched on with his pit strategy. One thing that it wouldn't surprise me to know, as we see here,
Sip sends it up the inside of Vigar.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge move there, but he gets it done. That was a really nice move.
Oh, Hardy.
That was less nice. Once again, plenty of room to make those
Farrington
mistakes.
out.
Very lucky
Redded
to take Farrington
past.
out. Yeah, absolutely. But, plenty of room at this track to make those mistakes.
Yeah,
as
Hall's
we
in.
see Hall in, I think that you'll see Dyke in this lap. But my point that I was making, Jared, was if Jamie Dyke was prepared to sit behind Hall there, save fuel, etc., and still keep up with him. We saw in the first race, Jamie Dyke probably had lap speed over Hall, but couldn't find a way past, but he was battling. It looked to me like what he was doing in this race was he was just content to run at Hall's pace, use less fuel, and jump in the pit lane. It'll be interesting to see how they're going with that time.
Gamble's into his second.
That's
Gamble's come into
interesting
the second.
play.
Okay. This adds a different flavour to it, doesn't it?
It does. It might be a really good move for Gamble. It'll allow him to buy some track space. It may also put him back into traffic that's slower than he is. So obviously Jamie Dyke's out the front now, and whilst he's on older tyres, he's not being bothered by anyone. We would expect, he's going to do a pit, pop out somewhere around Poynton, Walker, Logsdale. They're all really fast drivers, so Dyke can probably get out and still run really good times. If we do have a bit of a look, I'm just trying to see where Scotty Gamble coming out, around Vigar, Sipple, Grant, Stewart. Certainly not slow names, but not the same sort of paces, Poynton, Walker, Logsdale, where Dyke's going to come out. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the rest of the race.
You know what I think it does add is that as we see Jamie Dyke now going to the pit lane, I think that actually makes it really difficult for Dyke to predict his second stop, and that's probably a pretty clever strategic move from Gamble. Coming in at around about the same time, Jamie Dyke would have had a really good idea of his pace had he come in for this and been able to see where Scott Gamble was coming back out. He's going to have to recalculate that now after his stop. So that's going to make things just a little bit trickier for him as we see now Walker and Logsdale coming around and getting to that second to last turn. Mike Poynton's gone off or almost went off ahead of him. He's just dipped that rear wheel in, but you see Wayne Walker, how fast he's going through those turns, really sliding the car. So he's pushing hard. Poynton is coming in for his second stop now. Then Logsdale continues.
This is huge for Jamie Dyke, though, because he's on his way out. So there comes Dyke. Only one car gets past him. I expect that Hall might get him on this lap, but he can probably hold Hall up. He's only got one car in front of him now, Jared. Jamie Dyke can go basically as fast as he wants. Do another 5 or 6 laps, absolutely pedal to the metal, dive in and do his pit stops. The other guys who have pitted, if we do look down our list, I'm once again just trying to find Scotty Gamble. He's down in 21st. He's in traffic. He is around cars. I'm not able, I'm not in my usual seat with some other information available to me that I can look at. I'm not gonna predict where it washes out, Jared. But how exciting to see two wildly different strategies at play.
Absolutely. So to give you some clarity, folks, Jamie Dyke now sits pretty well bang on 40 seconds ahead of Scott Gamble. Now, given that this second stop, as time ticks away here, is going to become shorter and shorter as he needs to take on less and less fuel, he's put in a proper 50-second stop end to end there. So 14 seconds in the bay. It's actually one of the longer stops. So he's pretty much fueled to the end. So
Sorry, Joe, to cut you off. It's really interesting, right? He was doing his first stop when everyone else was doing their second. That means that from a tyres and fuel perspective, Jamie Dyke can get home. Right, yeah. If everyone else is doing their second stop,
should be able to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so his next stop is literally put it up on the jacks, drop it, go.
Now, interestingly, Scott Gamble's second stop was a 50-second as well. So maybe he's gone for the quicker first stop. But regardless, Jamie Dyke has a very, very fast stop ahead of him. And that's really
right.
good news for him.
How this is played out is there's 2 stops tonight. There is a 50-second stop, let's call it, but there's a long stop at the midpoint of the race. You can either do a really short stop early, because there's not much capacity left in your fuel tank, all of those other things, Jared, and then you come in at the midpoint, you fuel to home, you tyre to home, and away you go. The reverse of that is what Jamie Dyke's doing. He has fuel to home and tyre to home at the midpoint, and all he has to come in and do now when he comes in his next stop is put the car on jacks and put it down. I think that you will see him add 1 or 2 litres of fuel only. He won't do tyres. It'll be as fast up and down as you can go, and he'll be straight back out. That'll massively reduce his transit time, but it also puts him, in a really good position He's out the front. He's got Logsdale in front of him. We know that Logsdale's fast. He's out there having a ball. I wouldn't be surprised to see this work in Dyke's favour. I'm, going on the record there. I don't have some of my stuff that I have available to me when I'm at home, but I'm excited to see how this goes. And, how cool is it? I just come back to that fact again, Jared. How cool is it to see a race with differing strategies being able to be played? Because far too often in this kind of racing, we see that there's really only one strategy that can work.
Yeah, and to give us some idea of what might be ahead for Jamie Dyke, Matt Vanderkran's probably a really good example. He's just completed his second stop, coming out on the current lap. Spent only 46 seconds in there with a 10-second stop. Now, Dyke's stop will be much, much quicker than 10 seconds in the bay, I'm sure. Probably a bit more
a set
like
of tyres.
Yeah, that is. That's a set of tyres and maybe a touch of fuel if he needs it. You'd have to think maybe 4 or 5 seconds tops.
Yeah, so we're certainly seeing Mick Clifton, for instance. He's in the pits at the moment, but his first stop was 5.6 seconds.
Yeah,
that
very
seems
quick.
more realistic to me. He obviously did that first stop very early, but that's that realm of just a couple of litres of fuel. Get the car coupled up, drop a couple of litres of fuel in it, decouple it. That's all that it takes. If I was Jamie Dyke, given that I had taken tyres on the same lap as everyone else, I'm not taking tyres at my next stop. I'm not doing a 9-second stop if I can do a 4-second stop.
No, absolutely not. Tell you what, though, he's still putting the pressure on Logsdale out here. He's certainly got a fair bit more pace. He's almost, 7/10 quicker on the last lap. Jamie Dyke is looking to get a move on here, and I'm pretty sure we're about to see him put that pass on in the next couple of corners. When we get a moment, I do want to go back, because Andrew Johnston, as you can see, is out of the race here tonight. I do want to go back and have a look at just what's happened to earn him that meatball all the way back on lap 2. I've just been holding on to this one for the moment. Scott Mackay has a black flag, so he'll be in to serve either a drive-through or a stop and hold. I'm not sure what that one is actually for. I'm sorry, we don't have ears on race radio here tonight. But it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looks like Scott
That's always a
Mackay
shame.
out of the car. That's interesting. That's interesting. He's showing us out of the car on our tower. So I'm not even going to take a guess at what's happened there. Let's go back and have a look though and see what's happened to Andrew Johnston that's caused this. And is it a blown motor at turn 1? It is.
Yep.
And I don't know anyone better to talk to about that than you, Mr. Harris.
Wow.
How's that for a place to be pulled up, though? That's bloody terrifying with a blown motor to be absolutely stuck.
Motor? Yeah, absolutely. So when I say proper blown motor, everyone's probably looking at me going, or listening to me going, what do you mean? What I was able to discover when I raced at the Bend a couple of weeks ago, Jared, is that you can blow a motor. And that entirely locks the rears. And if we watch here, I reckon there'll be a double downshift, so he's going to go down to 4th very quickly.
Actually, the shift down to 3rd that did it, though.
Oh, I reckon that he was locked on the shift to 4th.
Yeah, perhaps.
So what that does is that, that seizes the engine. That's where you get that big rear lockup that you see, etc., etc. What you do have the ability to do, as I discovered, Jared, is just over rev the engine a little bit, and that does terminal damage, but the engine actually still runs, and you can then limp the whole way back to the pits while spewing oil all over the front of your race car. As we see here, Jamie Dyke's got his nose up the inside of Logsdale. Will he have a crack into this second
He's going to
corner?
save this for turn 1. It's a much safer turn to make the move on. He knows he's in a pretty good spot here. He doesn't want to jeopardise that. But Dan Hall, you can see, is starting to close in again. So Dyke is being held up here just enough. And there we go, Logsdale in. So this will free it up. Dan Hall is in for his second. Jamie Dyke has clear track again.
Yeah, and this is where you'll see Dyke absolutely put the foot down. If this is his in lap, whether it's this one or the next one, it's going to be soon. And Dyke will be doing everything he can to absolutely set the fastest lap that he possibly can. But just back to that blown engine, Jared, yes, I am probably the best to talk about it. I love an aggressive downshift. I love the noise that these things make. I love the way that they pull up on the engine.
How do you love the sound of a Conrod through the block, mate?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't love the amount of times that I make a rapid, unplanned disassembly of my engine block.
Yeah, and unfortunately you do have a little bit of a habit of doing it. So yeah, look, it does make you an expert mechanically on these simulated V8s, if nothing else.
40 laps of Bathurst last night, Jared, and not a single over rev. I'm a changed man, and I am moving forward.
Believe it when I see it. Dean Logsdale gives up the position to Mark Poynton, but a big moment there, and Logsdale's going to be back into it. I tell you what, it doesn't take much here. You know, it looks like a lot of track space, but you lock up even a little, and all of a sudden there's just not enough track to save you from giving up time.
And the other thing that I noticed with looking at Logsdale there, aren't we all racing drivers, Jared? I fell foul of it last night. You know, like I just said, 40 laps of Bathurst last night. We had a 90-minute race last night, and I was in Logsdale's position a number of times. I'm behind a car, and I'm thinking to myself, it's okay. I'm just going to cruise around. I'm happy with the lap speed. I'm happy with how the race is coming together, and I see the tiniest puff of smoke out of the car in front of me, or I see it get sideways on corner exit, and my eyes just light up like dinner plates. So I can nearly picture what Dean Logsdale was just looking like then. He has just seen money signs in front of him, and he's like, you beauty, I'm a race car driver, I am absolutely coming through. And then, wasn't able to get it done, had his own little ugly moment trying to pull it back up. But I just find it hilarious, Jared. We are all the same. We think that we are going to race, and we're going to be cool, calm, and collected, and then just this tiniest sliver of an opportunity to pass someone presents itself, and we all just try and shove a 1.5-ton V8 supercar through that gap, no matter how small it is.
Because why not? That's racing, after all. Logsdale having a big look up the inside of that second to last turn, so he can smell an opportunity here for Poynton. Poynton does not have quite as much pace as perhaps he might ordinarily, and Dean Logsdale, we know, can put it on when he needs to as well. So we've got Dan Hall, Scott Gamble, Mark Poynton, Dean Logsdale all sitting here around about 40-ish seconds behind Jamie Dyke. Jamie Dyke has definitely slowed down. His last lap at 1:54.22.
Jamie Dyke is the only person in the whole field that hasn't done his second stop.
He's gonna drag this out as long as he can, I reckon. Because if he's not taking tyres, then really what he wants to do is get the fuel as low as possible to absolutely minimise the time that he spends in there. So I reckon we might see him even go as late as 21, 22.
Oh, I mean, the reality of it, Jared, is if he needs 5 laps, if he needs 5 litres to get home, he needs it now, and he needs it on the last lap. Running longer doesn't change how much he's got to put in. It just changes how heavy the car is when he does put it in. I think that Jamie Dyke needs to consider how quick the people are around him. What does it mean when he comes out? Where is he going to come out? And how many laps does he want up his sleeve to be able to fight with them at the end?
Yeah, and that's the really tough decision that he's going to need to make here, as we see Logsdale continuing to absolutely hassle Mark Poynton. Now, this is good news for Jamie Dyke, because Wayne Walker is stuck behind them here. And look, hats off to Walker, up 18 positions so far this race. So he has absolutely hammered all race to try and get back into some kind of contention for points here in race number 2. But he's unlikely to finish in the top 3 tonight, which will be something a little bit different for him, for sure. Logsdale and Poynton continue to battle on, though, and that is just going to make it very difficult for Wayne Walker to really get any further ahead. Logsdale, a big send up the inside for turn 1. He's going to lose a lot of pace, though. And that brings Wayne Walker right up into it.
Yeah, Logsdale's getting really...
He's getting sloppy, honestly.
Well, and he's also frustrated, right? Like, you can tell that is a driver who wants to pass, and of course now he's invited Wayne Walker into the battle. And he immediately has to turn his attention to defending. He should be able to hold this. The track goes back to the right after this. I don't expect that Wayne's going to be able to hold that position. I think that Dean Logsdale, it's very easy from up here to say, Jared, I'm certainly not suggesting you can do a better job in the car, but what we're seeing is, Dean obviously has speed over Poynton when he's on the back of him. I think that his best chance is into turn one, and that means that really what he needs to do is focus his attention on making sure that he gets a really great exit out of the second last corner, so that he's right on the tail of Poynton coming out of the last corner, so that he's got the best chance into turn one. Because I think that he's getting a little bit greedy into the second last corner, which is not giving him the run that he needs.
No, I tend to agree. Further back though, Stephen Varga and Damon Fisher getting just a little closer together. We get into the last 5 laps now, and this battle further back in the pack for 11th. Vargs, Fisher, Whiting and Clifton all right in it. No one really in a position to make a move just yet, but when we take a look at some of the times that these guys are running, all very, very closely knitted, save for Michael Whiting, who actually is quite a bit faster at the moment. He ran, almost a good second and a half quicker than both Vargs and Fisher on the last lap. So don't be surprised if you see a move from Whiting here as they come past that start-finish camera. Don't know that he's going to get it done this lap, but certainly he's looking to close that gap up if he can. The one to watch though, still Jamie Dyke yet to come in. So we'll see. He's getting closer and closer to the finish. He's got to think about it soon, doesn't he? It's getting.
It's really interesting, Jared. I've just been watching his lap times for a couple of laps. He is doing the same lap time or better than
Actually, you're
Paul.
spot on. You're spot on.
He's slower than Gamble, but he's faster than Hall. Of course, Gamble is now so close to Hall that he's going to be slowed down. I think that Jamie Dyke has been watching those lap times to the car in second place, going, it's okay, he's not catching me. What will be, will be. We see him tick off another lap. He's done a 54.3 there, so that's, he's 0.2 slower on that lap than he has been the last couple. We now have to wait some 40 seconds to see what the car in second place is doing as far as lap speed. But I actually wouldn't be at all surprised to see Hall and Gamble start to go a little bit slower as they battle together.
Yeah, and absolutely, Jamie Dyke will be lapping that up, because it all means one less lap that he needs to worry about putting any extra fuel in. He's going to run this right down, you'd expect. He's only got a couple laps left to do the second one.
Look at that, he's pulled time. So Hall and Gamble have absolutely slowed each other up. They've dropped to doing 54.5s. So
despite being teammates.
Look, usually most of us, even though we're teammates, there'll absolutely be a requirement to talk to each other and not take each other out. But you don't get to. Well, that's exactly right. You don't get to 3 laps from the end of a 24-lap race and then just hand over second spot. You just don't do it, right? Like you'll be a little bit more polite than you would be to someone else. But you there's just no reason to just hand it on the platter to Scotty Gamble. There's not that much difference between second and third for Scott. He has to earn it, in my opinion. These guys will battle a little bit. It'll slow them down. Jamie Dyke will continue to pull a gap. It's only 0.2 a lap, but hey, that's 0.2. That he doesn't have to. Doesn't have to make up later. If he has him in pit now, I wouldn't be surprised to see him run all the way out to lap 23. Of course, now that I've said that, he's absolutely going to make me look like a fool and come in this lap.
Well, let's find out, because he's about to round the final corner. Is he coming into the pits? No, he's pushing again, another lap. Jamie Dyke continues it on. Speaking of continuing on, Poynton, Logsdale and Walker all still in this little train here. Just a bit of a moment there. Michael Stewart, as he passed Simon Farrington, you saw as we were talking Jamie Dyke's strategy. I don't know if it was outstanding spatial awareness or just pure fluke that he managed to pull across in front of Farrington without turning himself around on that car, but it was very, very close.
Yeah, it was. I'm not going to have a guess either, Jared, about which one it was. What I do know is that Gamble and Hall have swapped positions now, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Gamble have the speed to start reeling Dyke in, but what that means for his lead, etc., who knows?
Yeah, and I reckon that will probably be the signal to Jamie Dyke. Okay, time to come in, get this done, and be able to battle if need be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
hope for his
that's
sake that
the
he
moment.
knows. Yeah, absolutely. I hope for his sake that he knows exactly what his transit time is. If we do look, Daniel Hall's second lap, the second pit stop, and he's on a very similar strategy to Jamie Dyke, but Daniel Hall's last pit stop was 4.3 seconds. Andrew Rushworth's pit stop was 4.0 seconds. So I'm really expecting to see Dyke in for somewhere in that 3 to 4 seconds vicinity and back out. Hopefully for his sake, and hopefully for our sake, Jared, it really opens up a really fun 1 or 2 laps sprint to the end.
Yeah, it will be tight. 39 seconds the gap now back to Scott Gamble. I mean, the shortest stop we've seen is 40, and sure enough, Jamie Dyke comes in. So keep your eye on this timer, because remember, being out on track doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to hold it into the first turn. And we'll jump forward. We'll have a look at that as Jamie Dyke exits the pits, because that's going to be the really telling one. So he's not quite at his pit box yet.
It will be very interesting to see, and if it is super close, and I hope it is, right, for our sake.
4.3 seconds.
4.3.
Nothing in it. Here comes Scott Gamble. Watch the end of that pit lane. Where's Jamie Dyke?
Jamie Dyke is going to be ultra aggressive.
He's already out on track. There he is. Look at the gap. It's going to be enough that he should be able to hold this for the next lap and 3/4 that he's got remaining here. He's got to get those tyres up to temp, so he's going to lose a little bit more of that 2-second gap that he's still holding. But as soon as they warm up, and it won't take long with all of these turns ahead of him, bearing in mind, of course, that Scott Gamble is on tyres from lap 11 as well. So,
so is Jamie Dyke. Jamie Dyke did not change tyres.
Actually, that's a good point, sorry. Yeah, I stand corrected. He hasn't changed tyres, so his tyres are good to go. He should be able to hold this pace, no problem.
It means 2 things. First of all, Jamie Dyke's tyres are warm, so he doesn't have to warm them up. But secondly, they're no better than Scott Gamble. So we should expect to see this gap stabilise and Jamie Dyke be able to run home with somewhere in the vicinity of a 2-second lead. What I think that tells me, Jared, is that Jamie Dyke did the homework. He knew what his pit transit time was. And he knew that he had, a 2-second gap in hand, and he would have just been trundling around each lap, watching that, making sure that it didn't get below a number that he was comfortable with.
Yeah, you can't underestimate someone like Jamie Dyke. He absolutely knows his stuff when it comes to the strategy in play at any given point, and I'm sure that having raced here, as we said, 3 or 4 weeks ago, big moment for Wayne Walker behind, manages to keep it on track, but that's going to cost him some time. That probably will end any chance that he's got of getting much further ahead than just Point and Logsdale at this stage, although I don't know that he'll necessarily even manage the pass there, because Point and Logsdale still keeping that pace up. The gap has not shifted out in front. Jamie Dyke still holding 2 2/10 as we hit the final lap here. Scott Gamble and Dan Hall will be looking at second and third at this stage. The question is, Dean Logsdale and Mark Poynton, will there be a swap of position here before we're done?
I don't know. I think that a lot of these drivers now will be, reasonably comfortable, depending on who is around them. Oh no, what have we got here?
Michael
Stewart going very slowly.
Is he coughing? Is he out of fuel?
Yeah, that looks like fuel to me.
He was actually right on the tail of Simon Farrington there, and coming through that turn, I think he's just suffered a bit of starvation, and that's been it.
Put on the clutch, my friend, and roll to your pit bay.
I'll apologise in advance, because as I've tried to go back and have a look at that, we've chosen the wrong moment. But that's James Hardy getting it all sorts of wrong as well. So this is the moment. Have a look. He's all over the back of James Hardy. Locks it up just a little on the downshift. There's a little contact there that spins Hardy. He pulls up. But then is that enough? And he realised, oh, actually, I'm out of fuel. What a way to find that out.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me, Jared, is that he was, probably had enough pace to get himself around to pit that lap, and by getting on the brakes to try and redress that contact, he then, found himself very, very slow. Jamie Dyke, though, fantastic drive. Up 5 positions, gets the win a couple of seconds ahead of Gamble. That's no mean feat. Gamble's been so very fast this year. Hall, Poynton and Logsdale round out your top 5. Wayne Walker up 18 into 6th, Jared.
Great finish for him. Can't take that away from him. It's not what he would have hoped for, I'm sure. But look, it is the way that it's fallen out here tonight. As we see Vargs coming across the line, keeping ahead of Whiting, Fisher and Clifton. And now, some time back before we see Peter Sattler making it around, he'll be the next across the line in 15th, and quite a gap through the rest of the field, you've got to say. Sattler's done a pretty decent job to retain that spot, up 7 actually from where he started, because he did have a bit of a moment earlier on that certainly cost him a bit of time and space. But the night absolutely belongs to Jamie Dyke, and I'm really hoping that what we're going to see from him here is a little bit of celebration as opposed to out of fuel.
It could be out of fuel. Well, look at that. I just want to make a call out, Jared. Simon Farrington in 18th spot, up 8 positions after race 1. That's actually the second most positions gained after Wayne Walker. Now, obviously, we very well understand the speed that Wayne brings and the reason that he was up 18. After that absolutely disastrous start in race 1. But Simon Farrington has done a fantastic job, and I think deserves a special call out tonight for coming up 8 positions in race 2.
Yeah, huge effort for Simon Farrington, despite everything that's gone on tonight for a lot of these drivers. Jamie Dyke, what's going on here, mate? I was expecting a bit more of a smoke show, but that might be
all the fuel that he had for us.
just enough left to get a little bit of it done. As we take a look now at the results for race number 2, and Jamie Dyke, for the first time in a while, finds himself at the top of the podium, and just a brilliant piece of strategy landing him there tonight, finishing ahead of Gamble and Hall, the Evolution Racing team, taking 2nd and 3rd. Mark Poynton and Dean Logsdale managed to hold on and finish ahead of Wayne Walker in 6th, and Vanderkraan in 7th. Rushworth and Orman ahead of Lorne McKee in 10th spot. It was a quality race, that's for sure. We've got a few people to talk to as we get through this, and we might start, I think, with Dan Hall. Dan, welcome to the booth, mate. A cracking drive there, a bit of a battle back and forth with Scotty, but in the end, a good showing for ERT tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was. We were just saying how much fun that was. That was a lot of fun. It's a great track. A little bit hard to pass there's those key corners where you would make the passes, but really, really tricky to get the braking right and get the nose in there safely. But fortunately, I didn't have to do too much of that tonight.
Well, that's about all you can hope for, honestly. We were sort of taking bets on the whole way through on how the strategies were likely to play out tonight. Was there much discussion within the team about running a different strategy across the 2 cars this evening, or just the way it sort of all fell for both of you tonight?
Look, what we did discuss was, whoever's, because it was the inverted field, whoever's at front, just get out there, keep that clean air, and then whoever was a bit behind, best strat is probably just to come in, take that fuel early, try and get some clear air. And I think for Gambo, it probably was a little bit of a detriment to him, because he probably came out behind some slower paced cars or some lapped cars, but he was able to make that up pretty well, obviously. But yeah, I think the optimal was being obviously up the front and then maximizing your first stint, fill it all the way up, and then just come in for a little splash and dash. So I filled up probably 1.5 litres less on that first one because I figured I've got to put a little bit in anyway, and turned out to be half a litre too little. On that last lap, I just had to save half a litre on the last half of the lap, and it coughed just across the line.
Well, mate, they do say that, it doesn't matter whether you win by an inch or a mile. So coughing right on the lines probably means that you've absolutely maximised your pit stops. You talk about just how difficult this track is to pass on. How much in that first race was it in your head? Jamie Dyke behind you. It looked to us like he probably had a little bit of pace over you, but as you said, so difficult to pass. How much was that 5th place, inverted top 5? How much was all that weighing? Was it a big battle, or were you pretty comfortable on a track like this to be able to defend?
For me, it was I was sweating, but for Jamie, I'm pretty sure he was pretty comfortable. Good thing is, with someone like Jamie behind you, I felt very comfortable that he wasn't going to do anything silly. And there was a couple of little mistakes that I had made, a bad exit onto the front straight, and I just covered across. And again, I just felt comfortable he wasn't going to do anything silly. But yeah, and then I didn't quite realise I was in 5th until the last couple of laps, and that's when the pressure went up, and that's probably when the mistakes happened, honestly. The rookie mistakes there. But it was lots of fun. I do like that they've got these different formats where they invert the field and the heat races. It just mixes it up. It makes it a lot more fun, and just adds a bit more strategy play into it.
A really quality race from our perspective tonight. Dan, congrats on P3 in the feature race, and a really good night for you in terms of points overall. We'll let you get back to it, and we'll go have a chat to your teammate, hey?
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Dan. Dan Hall taking P3 there in race number 2, and we bring to the booth now Scott Gamble. Mate, welcome back. What a race that was.
There you go, guys. Yeah, that was really good fun. To pull in an alternate strategy, just to roll the dice with it. Like, I spoke to the guys at the start of the race, and I said, I might just do this, see how it holds up. Ultimately, it probably cost us maybe a position in the end, just with cars. You've got to get through the traffic, and I carried damage in the first stint, which I didn't realise until after I was in pit lane, and it said I will repair all the damage. But it was so much fun. Like, the guys were driving really clean and clever, and by all means they can race you, and some realised, hey, you're not on the same strat. They moved over, and others said, hey, I'm just going to race you because I can. And so it was really good fun. I enjoyed it.
How much in that first race, Scott, did you pick up on the start? I reckon that you were planning for a pretty big race down into turn 1, and suddenly found yourself all on your own. Did you pick up on what went on during that race at all?
At race 1,
yeah.
I didn't during the time. I knew something had happened to Wayne, and I wasn't sure. But then after the race, I heard that you got to put it. Well, you don't put it in half a race, do you? So I went the wrong way, and I think last time I haven't seen it yet, which he'll be kicking himself. But I think the last time Chad Viger might have been responsible for this one too, or one of the Vigers. I'm sure they've done it before too. So we'll have to suss that one out.
At any point tonight, particularly in that first race, when suddenly Wayne Walker is in last place, does the championship start to come to the front of mind? And was there any thought on what this means and any added pressure with that, or were you just purely focused on tonight?
I thought about it, and I thought, what, it doesn't. I'm not really here for the championship. I'm here to race, get the practice in. I think that's what ASR was built on, and really have some fun and get to race with some of my teammates, and for also with a lot of the other drivers that we normally wouldn't get to race with, because we're in different splits. So, I mean, yes, you do think about it. You think, shit, this is going to hurt his championship, because he's so far in front, right? Like, he's been unstoppable. So he's had a hiccup tonight. He recovered really well to get back up to P6, which is awesome. It's good to see him up there. He made a mistake. It's something that, no one's ever going to forget it. That's the thing with when you do something like that. Your teammates especially, they'll never let you forget something like that. So, he'll laugh about it afterwards. He's probably happy with his drive in race 2 or the main feature race, I think, because that was a pretty good drive by him.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And look, I hope that Wayne watches this back, and my suggestion to him is going to be, you know what, you own something like that and you add a little memento onto the livery, something like a ARFA race on the side of it or something like that. I'm sure he'll find a way to commemorate it. And it's a good reminder that we're all human and these things happen. Scott, thanks so much for talking to us once again, and congrats on your drive tonight. Anyone you want to shout out on behalf of yourself and, of course, on behalf of Dan Hall in terms of ERT supporters?
Yeah, well, it wasn't a great fun racing with Dan. Shame he pinched the front there and we got through, but otherwise it was, really good fun. And that's what it's about. We came there, we raced with our teammates, raced it pretty hard and pushed him, and, ERT, they're a great bunch of guys to race with. I think if it was really on the line and we were thinking of championships, he'd let you through sort of thing and help you out. But in this case, it was open slaver. And by the way, we've got a little rule in ERT that if you take a teammate out, you've got this livery, right? And it says those shall not hit teammates, right? And it's pink with purple polka dots. So I definitely did not want to wear that livery for the next round, so I was being a little bit careful too. But thanks to you guys. I'll watch the broadcast back later. Thanks to all the drivers. I've waffled on enough here, but good fun. Enjoyed it. Well done to Jamie as well. Top race, and well done to Matt and the others in the first race.
Scotty Gamble, always a pleasure. We'll let you get back to it. Thanks again, and congrats on the results tonight. Scott Gamble there taking P2 in the feature race, and Josh, it's time for none other than our race winner, Jamie Dyke. Welcome back to the booth, my friend. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. How are we,
mate? Doing well. I'm going to start off with the obvious one, and we'll get to your pit strategy and just how well you played out tonight's race. But what happened with the burnout, mate? Out of fuel, or what's the go?
Yep. Usually I overfill or save so I can do a burnout. But I knew the strategy Scott and Dan were on, and I wasn't risking it.
Look, fair enough, mate, and it's paid off handsomely tonight. We were counting down, just trying to predict what your plan was in terms of the pit stop, but it played out just beautifully. Was that the plan right from the start tonight?
Not from the start. Like I went from the first race that I had a little bit of pace on Dan, making him sweat. And his second race, with the possibility of safety cars, I knew Scott was going to do that, pull that strategy, splash at the start and hit mid-race. And I thought the only alternative to that would be what me and Dan did. So I pretty much just wanted to catch him, try and fake him into an early stop, run. I planned to do 2 laps after Dan, do a bit of clean air, and then I saw the delta. I was either matching them or pulling away by half a tenth to a tenth of a lap, so I ended up just going as late as I possibly could.
And now, Jamie, I gave you a lot of credit during the broadcast that you must have done plenty of homework, known your exact transit time, etc. Was that the case? Did you know, roughly exactly how long you were going to spend in pits? Were you very comfortable that you were coming out in the lead, or were you just happy maintaining that gap and what was going to be was going to be?
I hadn't done any homework for like the pit gap, but I knew I was going to be around Dan. I knew Dan did the exact same strategy that I was planning, take most of it in the first stop. So I knew within a 2-second gap either way, I was around Dan. And the fact that after he pit, he was the lead car of everyone that had pitted, it gave me a good shot just to watch his delta and see what I could do.
Now, I am starting to pick up on a little bit of how Fishy works, mate, and I know that there's always some code that goes on in YouTube comments and things like that, and you guys certainly seem to have a pretty significant number of birthdays, for instance, considering there's not that many of you in the team. But we have been asked tonight to ask you about how your ratchet strap's going. Now, this is potentially new code. Potentially, it's just Coleman dumping you in it for the quality of your sim gear. But I do have to ask. Coleman has asked us. He's sent us on a mission. Tell us about the ratchet strap and how's it holding up?
No, on my old rig, and this rig before I got these pedals, I used to ratchet strap my pedals down, and he put a picture of someone we know who just bought a new rig that's using a ratchet strap. So bit of taking the piss and a bit of Mickey in the pond.
No, that's it's all good fun, mate. And you know, certainly one of the things that I talked about during that broadcast was that you know, one of the really cool things about sim racing is that budget and quality of gear, unlike real motorsport, doesn't always just reference good, you know, fast racing. So
No, it doesn't.
I think that it's pretty fun that we can do stuff like ratchet strap our pedals down and still be ultra competitive, mate. It's a credit to you. You had an absolutely fantastic race tonight. It was fantastic to watch. It gave us a lot to talk about. Finally, mate, you know, is there anyone that Fishy or Jamie Dyke wants to give a big shout out to tonight while you've got the floor?
I'd give a shout out to Mike, Kenny and Coleman for all the laps we've been doing around the bend as of late, and just everyone that raced tonight. It was pretty hard and fair, and I didn't see any maliciousness or anything like that. It was awesome racing, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Good to hear, mate, and very glad to hear you call out Mr. Coleman, because I think he'd be a little disappointed if you didn't, given that he's been there, you know, virtually for you in the YouTube comments tonight, giving you a bit of support in his own little way. So, mate, congrats. Look, honestly, really good to see you back up the front of a pack and chatting to us for the night. Enjoy it. Soak it all in. We've got a couple rounds left for you to have another crack at getting in here with us, eh?
Yeah, I don't know which rounds I'll be able to do as I'm working night shift now, but I've like championships out of the question, just here for fun, but I'll take as many as I can get.
Why not, mate? Congrats again. Well driven tonight.
Thanks, boys. Have a good one.
Jamie Dyke there, taking the win in the feature race this evening. And Josh, I've brought them up here a little earlier, just so we can have some time to have a bit of a chat about them before we sign off for the evening. Championship standings, there's still another drop round to be taken out of this. So when you consider how few points Wayne Walker has pulled out of tonight, but he did pull in another 40 odd points in the feature race there. I think if tonight's a drop round, that's actually going to make that top battle between Walker and Gamble pretty close one. I don't know what Scott Gamble's worst rounds are, but I don't think it's actually going to be quite as far apart as what we see based on tonight's provisional results.
No, I think that you could probably expect both of them to drop a similar amount of points. You know, we've seen Scott Gamble do things. You know, he had that incident a couple of weeks ago. I forget where it was now, but we saw him in the fence in one of the races. You know, there's been some stuff happen for Scotty Gamble as well this season. So if we say that that there's probably going to be a similar number of points dropped between the two drivers. What that means is that, you know, that 50-ish point gap that we look at there at the top of the table is pretty accurate, and I think that leaves us. I think it's 2 rounds to go, if I'm not mistaken, Jared. You know, 2 rounds to go, roughly 50 points between them. We saw tonight that anything can happen. This championship is alive and well.
No, it absolutely is. You're spot on. So very excited to see how these standings look when we do take a look at them at the start of next week's race. Of course, you won't be joining us, Mr. Harris, so we will see you back again for the final round of the season, I hope, which I'm sure will be an absolute cracker, as it always is.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, duty calls next week, and the people who pay far more of my bills than anyone else have demanded that I be elsewhere. So I do miss out on next week. I will thoroughly miss both your dulcet tones and all of the racing here at ASR, Jared, but I will definitely be back for the final the week after.
Can't wait for it, mate. Of course, on behalf of everyone behind the scenes here from ASR, the V8 Supercars series, a great bit of racing for us to cover. Massive thanks as always to the major sponsors in Quantum Tint Solutions and AO West Automotive, with of course a thank you to 24/7 Sim Services and Nicol Photography for all of their support in bringing this to you each and every week. And behalf of everybody here at Simple Racing Broadcast, another fantastic week of racing. If you're keen for more before next week, don't forget to tune in over on the Simple Racing Broadcast channel for Thursday night's Formula Drivers League racing action. We've got it going on right throughout the week here. We do hope you'll join us then. Until next time, though, it is goodbye for now.